Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us for Full Send Living today. Guess what? It's season 4.
Season 4.
2022. Season 4.
20 dose.
This is year number 2.
It is. Come on.
Let's go. Year number 2.
Thanks for being you.
How many? 3,000 downloads? More than that? Was it 4?
4,500, I thought.
40. Yeah, it was. 4,500
Thank
downloads.
you guys.
Thank you guys so much for listening, for sharing. We're going to keep going.
We're chugging along, baby.
Yep, we're going to keep going.
Every first and third Friday, welcome to Full Send Living.
Yes, with your hosts, Ethan Bricker and author
get out.
Nate Thompson, everybody. Look at this.
There it
Okay,
is.
something happened between episodes, and it is the launch of our very own Nate Thompson in between Sundays, or between some days. You want to tell us about this book?
Okay.
You hold it. You hold it.
Okay. Between Sundays, stories from childhood, lessons for life. This is a little project Kate and I started working on back in April of last year. We decided let's try to go for it and write it out. And as the year progressed, it started to kind of come together. And then December, we were like, it's done.
Boom. Done.
And it's just been a fun thing. It came from a lecture series I wrote a couple of years ago that Kate and I did at the Exquisite Corpse Coffee House in
Called
town.
6 Days for Jesus.
Yep.
6 Days of Jesus.
6 Days of Jesus. And it was one of the days I was just kind of like just journaling and praying and talking to the Lord. And he kind of put in my mind about just 6 different topics my parents would do when we were growing up that, I don't know, it was just kind of not weird, but it was just normal. Like people lived with us when we grew up. We would take communion as a family a lot. My dad would go to Bible studies with their friends growing up, just different things.
Normal Christian life. Yeah.
Monday through Saturday, that made faith real throughout the week. And then I just started thinking, like, what did I learn from that as an adult? And that's where it kind of came from. And then we had a couple times where 2 different friends like encouraged us about, you should write that into a book. And then last March, we did a trigger reload out at the property, and somebody wrote it on a card. Scott and Gabe wrote on a card, hey, do 6 Days of Jesus into a book.
Best advice ever.
And then that was in March. And then in April, Kate was like, send me your notes.
Yeah.
So that's how we started. And
okay. Let me take over now.
Okay.
It's so good. Yeah. Let me just sell you guys on this real quick. Okay. And it's not because I know Nate. It's a really good book. Nate gave me the privilege of being able to read the manuscript before it was in paper. And I read the whole thing in a week, and it's super funny, like laugh out loud funny. It's engaging. It is challenging. It's just a good book about how to live a normal Christian life. Really, it just felt like this is what Christianity looks like when you're not at church. So if you are interested in that, if you have friends who are newly saved, new believers who are like, I want to follow Jesus, I believe this is a powerful book for you to pick up for your friends. I'm just going to sell it. You don't even need to say anything. You should pick this up for yourself and for other people. Like, it is convicting, and it's really powerful, and it's super funny the whole way through. I couldn't even pick a favorite chapter because every chapter had something that made me laugh really hard.
Thanks, buddy.
So you should pick it up. It's on Amazon.
Yep. We publish through Amazon.
Yep. And
it's $9.99.
Easy peasy.
Want to keep it under $10.
Yeah.
Keep it classy, people.
Yeah. Between Sundays, stories from childhood, lessons for life. Nate Thompson with Katie Thompson.
Yep.
Way to go, guys. We are starting off this season with this book, and we're actually going to work our way through every chapter. So if you'd like to join us, grab the book. We're going to start with chapter 1 right now. Yeah. You're going to have to just order it on Amazon right now while you're listening.
And then we're going to go through, chapter 1 was communion.
Yeah.
Just talking about that growing up. My parents, we did communion in our home often. It wasn't like insanely every day, but it was a lot. Like it was very normal to me to have communion at home. And I never really realized, I didn't really realize until friends and people started reading this that they were like, I've had so many friends be like, it never crossed my mind to take communion at home ever. Like I would never have thought of that. That was like an option, which on my side, it was like, wow, it's so strange. Cause
why wouldn't you?
yeah.
Yeah. Jesus said to do it in remembrance of him. Why are you not remembering him at home?
Exactly. Come on, people.
Come on.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
to have communion with your own little tribe, it's mind-blowingly amazing.
So powerful, and it's so awkward, and it's awesome.
Kids
Yeah.
are berserk trying to do communion.
Yeah. It's so Nate like walks through this story of like him and his sisters and how they look at each other and be like, check your heart.
Yeah.
Observe you sinner.
Like I do remember it. Like we would and I would love for you to go through the stuff, because I mean this might just take a long time. I don't want to go completely into it, but just how as an adult to look back over, like we view communion like as it's like, check your heart and search yourself, make sure you're good enough to have communion. And I remember when I was a kid, that's how I perceived it as a kid. Like, don't, you make sure you check yourself, and like,
you don't check yourself.
yeah,
Cursed.
you don't cursed. And just to look back through that and just what the Lord, it's literally just what he says about it and how it's like to discern who he is within communion. It's, that's the crux of it. I mean,
Yeah.
but
It's a lot like taking the Lord's name in vain. You know what I mean? It's like you're not honoring him for who he really is and what he's really done unless you're discerning him properly.
yeah.
Yeah. That's really good.
And to have those moments like with our kids, with Bear or with, Grayson and Scarlett and Knightley and all your little crew, little Revy.
Yeah.
It's just so special. And I think one thing too, I really learned too, is just there's no mediator between us and God.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, to realize like, yes, I enjoy taking communion as like a body in church and with fellow believers and stuff. But I had this thought to where it could almost be compared to like a toast at a wedding, where, like for me to present communion, and it's like you're like looking at Jesus and you're listening to the guy talk, and it was almost like this moment of like having a best man, and I think when you see Jesus take communion with his disciples, there was no mediator between them and God. It was God. And to recline, it's like the one scripture just says they reclined at the table.
Yeah.
And like to think back, I can just visualize my dad just literally leaning against, like sitting on the floor between the coffee table and the couch and just reclined against it, reading with us and me and Cheryl and Kara, just arguing and whatever, trying to get through it. And just as a parent being like, no, we're going to do this. And this is why.
Yeah.
I mean, it is groundbreaking to look back on what that was doing in my life without even knowing it.
It does something as a child when you see your parents living out what was preached on Sunday. Like if you don't see it, then it starts to, I think as a kid, you start to wonder, should I even be following this man, Jesus? And what is this even real if it only happens at church? I know for like me, I grew up with a mom who did like communion. So when Nate started talking to me about it, I realized like, man, that was my childhood. Like my mom did communion for everything. We did communion for my grandpa one time because he had cancer on his face, and we prayed for him, did communion together, and the cancer fell off his face. Like he had like this little white thing of cancer, and they were going to have to do surgery on it. He went back to the doctor and they were like, you took it off. He was like, I didn't take it off. They were like, it's gone. And he was like, we did communion. And that's like, and honestly, it's like, that's a miracle. That was like, that was real. That happened. And it happened in our living room. Just a bunch of kids who were literally like, I don't even want to do this. Like in a way like, oh, we have to take the time to do this.
Oh yeah. It's so funny as a kid. Like, cause I mean, keep going.
Yeah. But it's like, she took the time to say, Jesus, you're welcome here.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that, whoom, it's like that is like the power that's available to every single one of us in our homes by just making a little bit of room, a
It is.
little bit of elbow room for Jesus.
You invite him in, and because that was one of the other things, something you just mentioned, it reminded me of one of the things I mentioned in it was it will cause you to realize you are the church.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to the church. You are the church.
Yep.
And like to commune with him and just to recognize who he is. And like, that's it. Not how often where it's like, this is what you did for me. I'm so thankful. And we bring our testimony and I think of like all the good things he's done for me.
Mm-hmm.
But like communion to me is like just the recognition of just you. And just
him.
to just see him for who he is. Something the Lord showed me literally like not even long ago, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, what I believe is the first recorded communion taken place by a person with the Lord, like them leading it. The thief on the cross,
The first discerning of the body,
the first discerning of the body, because
Yeah.
when you see Jesus lead his disciples through communion, and then we jump over to, and I think it's 1 Corinthians where Paul or Peter or whoever
Paul.
is
Yep.
speaking through communion on how to do it, and he talks a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
The one day when I was thinking about it, I'm like, dude, this thief on the cross discerned the body and the blood, and the moment of one, recognized himself and was like, if you can get me out of this, get us out of this. If you're Jesus, if you're God, get us out of here. Just whatever. And the other guy was like, we're being judged for our sins. Like we're being judged. The world is judging us right now. And then he recognizes the Lord and he's like, you're the Christ. Your body is being broken for me right now. And it's happening right now. And him just telling the other guy, can't you even see he doesn't deserve this? This is like, he just discerned the body right there. Nobody led him. Nobody was in between. Nobody was like doing anything. He saw the Lord and recognized the body. And then he says, will you remember me in paradise? And it was like the blood just flooded in. Dude, it's like fire in my heart because it was like this moment of like, he had communion. He took communion with the Lord. Like he led himself to commune, to discern the body, broke the curse. There's no curse on him because he discerned the body of Christ. And he's like, some of you, you're falling asleep and you're under a curse because you're not like, it's not that you're a sinner. That's the nature of humanity. It's nature away from God is the curse.
Yeah.
So for him to be like, no, I see you, Lord, and you are God. And there's nothing I'm just a sinner. I'm dying. I'm being judged by the world. Will you forgive? Like, and then Jesus
he
is like,
recognized the innocence. Like that's what gets me is like, he saw Jesus as pure innocence. Like he wasn't sitting there thinking, well, maybe he did this wrong. He was like, this man has done no wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like his recognition of Jesus was not of a man that had any wrong. It was a man who was completely innocent, who was taking guilt for something he had never done. And that realization of Jesus stepped in. It's the realization that he stepped into our place. Like,
and it has nothing to do with us. Like
Yeah.
the recognition of the moment of the body was him being like, it's you.
yeah, you are the Messiah.
You're it. You're
Yeah.
everything. You're the redemption. You're the
Dude, sometimes
Savior.
I get so conflicted inside talking about this because half of me wants to cry and half of me wants to laugh and run and celebrate. Like for real. Like it's like I'm so torn hearing about Jesus doing what he did because it's so deep and we will never fully understand it.
right.
But at the same time, it is so gloriously happy, and you realize that your freedom came from that moment. So it's
Dude,
like that's why the whole time you're talking, I'm just going.
it's
I'm
wild.
like, I don't know what to feel right now because I'm
It's-
like feeling so many things, and it's I don't even know what I guess what I'm trying to say is it's so important for us to be at home discerning the body. Like that's what takes our breath away.
Yeah.
Is like getting around Jesus, taking communion together, reading his word and seeing him for who he is, because it's like that's discerning every day. his body. And then by doing a physical act of it, you're recognizing that he is who he said he is, you know?
Dude, one of my favorite things too is with that moment when Jesus is like, yeah, I'll remember you. Like in paradise. The thought that, you know, like to see where the body and the blood come in and just join together, and to just think hours later, like that dude died. Like he was being like, his death was inevitable. It was right there. And then just to think the last thing, Jesus was like, I'll remember you. And to think like a few hours later, he's dead. And there's Jesus being like, hey, I remembered you. Like this just moment of like, oh my gosh, like to see.
And then to go forward and look at the book of Revelation, like a man with eyes like fire, you know, a voice like thunder and lightning.
Dude,
just
I can't
being
even talk
like,
about that.
you know what I mean? Like that man was the man who said, I remember you. Like it scales it. Like it just puts the scale of who Jesus is. Like he became so small and he traded a crown of thorns for a crown of gold for a crown of thorns, and traded anointing for spit.
Yeah.
And he's like, I choose you.
Yeah.
Like,
and like,
oh my gosh.
And I think that, and too, like what you said though,
Pumped
just
right now.
having like at home, there's a specialness there that's like, it's unfamiliar territory, I think, for a lot of us, because it removes the, I don't know what it removes. It almost, not that it removes any, it does everything. Cause like you're home, you're in your home and you invite the Lord in, and then you just take a moment with your family or just you or whatever to just to get eyes on him. Like it resets your compass. It renews your mind. I feel like that's why he said, every time you eat, do this. Every time you're feeding yourself, like feed your spirit, like remember, like reset your mind, realign your compass with me, because it's so easy to get our eyes onto a thing or something. And even a thing that we're trying to put together like this, me and Kate putting this together if we just put our mind on something good that we're doing for the Lord, not the Lord, you know? And I feel like communion in itself is just the purest way to remember him. And that's it. Like that thief, he was just like, I'm nothing. And I recognize you're everything. And will you remember me, because you are the Christ, you're the one. And then
what's beautiful about it is it's like Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. And then on the cross, he looks at that man and he says, I'll remember you. And it's like by taking communion, it's not only us remembering what he did, but it's also remembering that he remembers you right now.
Dude, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that you've not left his thought process, that like whatever you're going through, like that's in his head right now. You know what I mean? And it's like by you remembering him, he reminds you that he's thinking of you, you know?
Yeah. You know what I wonder about that? You know, that part at the end where he's taking it with his disciples and he says, I won't do this again until we're together, like in heaven.
Yeah.
That's something I want to look into, because I started thinking about that just a little bit the one day. And I just wondered, what does that even mean? Like the thought, like I just could imagine like this like feast of whatever. And all the times we as a people are like, we're remembering you. Our eyes are fixed on you. We're remembering your broken body. You broke just nature of humanity so we could take yours on, and you sealed us with your blood. We're remembering that. And for him to say, we're going to do this again together. And like I had this moment of like the imagination of being in with the Lord, all of us, and him just laying out communion and him re-leading us as a celebration of like just the moment of him just raising up a loaf of bread type idea. And it's just like,
I
just
would
like
lose my mind.
just like it would go from like, it's like this like sense of like victory.
You'd go from like crying to running, like,
dude,
to like,
that's what
give
I
me
mean.
a shield and a sword to go.
Gosh, dude, like to think of like when he's just like, I'm breaking my body for your body. I'm spilling my blood for your blood. Remember me for doing this. And then all of a sudden he's like, we're going to do this again, but it's going to be so different the next time I do this with you. It's not like a covering and like or whatever, like a remembrance of like, not even so much, I don't know, like mourning or whatever, just like that thought, but like that victory of like, no, I'm breaking it again. Like, I want to break it again with all of you now. Like just, I don't fully know what he meant by it, but my imagination goes to this, like a celebration of like, for him to be like, all eyes are back on me now.
Yeah.
Like it's me again. And I'm leading you. I'm leading my bride. I'm leading my people. I'm leading my sons and my daughters, all of them. We're going to sit around the coffee table.
Well, it's kind of like marriage. It's like you get married and then you eat. And it's like when you get married, then he's going to sit down with his bride and he's going to say, let's all eat something together. You know what I mean?
And to think like, he's like, this is what got you here. This broken body is what got you here. This blood poured out for you. Let's celebrate it.
What I love is that like when that moment happens, he's not going to be holding it above our heads because he's not going to be using it as a measuring stick. He's going to be using it as a connection point.
Dude,
like it's going to be like I would do this all over again for this. Like, that's like really what it is. It's like, honestly, it will be a full circle moment where he will remind us, I would do it again for this moment. You know what I mean? Because that will be the completion. That will be Jesus receiving the reward of his sufferings.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite sayings. I can't remember who said it. I just read a book where they said who said it, but it was this person prayed. I think they were a saint, like one of the Catholic, like St. Augustine, I think maybe, but they said like, we do everything we do because we want the Lamb to receive the reward of his sufferings. And it's like, that's like every time you do communion, whoever's listening to this, you're giving him a reward for the sufferings that he did.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, just
so dude,
pumped from that.
Communion at home, you guys.
So that's chapter 1. Chapter 1 is communion. Next week, actually 2 weeks from now, whatever, next episode, we're talking about Bible studies at home.
Yeah, let's and I feel like if we do, let's do Bible studies and the live-ins. Live-in kindness.
Oh, you want to do both of those at the same time?
Yeah, because we kind of did gave a little backdrop on how this came about, and then we got into communion. So I think we could buddy them up.
Yeah.
But guys, this is how you're going to send it this week. Take communion with the Lord, with your family. At home
by yourself, whoever.
And funny stuff, weird stuff's going to happen potentially. Like one, I don't pay for Spotify, so a commercial will come on at the worst time. That's real. That's happened multiple times where you're like just really just feeling like your spirit's connected with the Lord during a worship song, and then a commercial about Febreze comes on.
Do you need Viagra? Yeah. You're like,
okay, Lord, I'll be. Sorry, Lord, I don't pay for that.
This is uncomfortable.
And Lord, you know I don't pay for Spotify.
And the Lord's like, buy premium.
He's like,
you're ruining the vibe.
It's literally $8 a month. Babe.
It pays for itself if you don't buy the albums.
So yeah, funny stuff happens. Your kid will spill the juice on your carpet, and you're gonna be mad right before you take communion. It's just real, and it's just
or
like
it'll just be
bringing
super awkward because you're gonna be like, oh, what do we say? Nobody's leading me through this, but something profound happens when you lead yourself.
It is.
When like somebody didn't bring you to that moment, you brought yourself to that moment, and nobody can give you that except for yourself.
Yep. And it's just that moment. It's the moment of you and Jesus, like on the cross. There's nothing in between you. It's just you and him.
Yeah. Comment on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
If you do this, that's the only place where we can really see what you guys are doing. So comment on our YouTube channel if you do this. Let us know how it went. And if you are an audio listener, make sure to write a review. Share this with your friends. If you're a Spotify listener, we did talk about that, but I did find something out recently. If you're a Spotify listener, if you hit the little 3 circle button at the top of the menu, if you click on that, there's a rating section. If you click on that, you can give us a 5-star, that will help our podcast get in front of more people as well. So write a review, rate us, and send it this week, guys.
All right.
We love you.
Love you guys. We'll catch you next week.
Catch you on the flippity flop.